It's Wednesday. Oh my God. Didn't turn my speakers off. I could hear myself. That's the one thing you never want to hear. All right. As I was saying, it's Wednesday. And we're back. It's cold. We got the heater running. Hopefully, it's not distorting my audio too much. We're back working on gameplay systems. It's an exciting place to be. How's everyone doing? Good. All right. So we've been working on our editing systems. So we're getting our editing systems working again. We're refactoring them to run off of our entity component system framework. So we're going to be, building and editing ships in their entity form. What is this? Don't save. I think I opened the wrong project. I think I opened disk, which is Digital Iliad standardized code, which is like a code framework I'm working on for like common functionality and like ease of use during like game jams and stuff. I want to spend more time on it. I'm thinking about moving our entity component system into disk and setting up disk as like a plugin or a combination of plugins. I want to do that. It's a little questionable with the ECS because the ECS wants like a discrete list of components. Like it's not open ended. Like you can't just create a component on the fly. You need to define all of your components in advance so that our bit flag works. So I'm a little concerned about having a standardized version of it because each game needs its own thing. So I might change it in such a way where the plugin needs some kind of component information that you pass to it from the project that uses it. I'll have to think about that. I kind of want to do it. I don't really care that much because we're not going to, if we're doing a game jam, we're not going to be using an entity component system. That would be insane. I need an icon for this project. Right now we don't, this project doesn't have an icon. I feel like it should. All the other projects have little icons. I want a new icon. Let me grab an SVG of this stuff. Like, these are the exports. Give me the actual file. Shield and spear. Wow, I made this almost a year ago. It's kind of incredible. I want to make an SVG of this. Pixel scale 1. It's probably fine because this is like 256 by 256 or something like that. Let's take this. Yeah, that seems fine. Let's cut this out here. Well, let's copy it. Copy you. Put you in this project. Over here. Save this. That should work. Then we at least have a nice little icon for our project. Yeah. It's just the default Digital Iliad icon, but that's fine because this project is just named Digital Iliad. We don't have a name for this game, which is kind of a problem. I was originally going to call this game just Digital Iliad, and then that kind of became my name. It kind of became the name of the studio once I started working on other projects and stuff. So, I mean, we could do like self-titled album, basically, and this could be like Digital Iliad by Digital Iliad. But I don't know, that seems wrong. So I haven't thought of a good name for this game. I feel like that's something that's going to come to us as we get further along in development. Something will come to us. It will earn its name, much like Adar or Adar. Got to earn your name. I was born David, but I earned the name Dave. I had to earn that one. I had to be a Dave, not a David. All right, so we're going to work on our command queue deal. I did a little bit of reading on this recently about like event queues and uh, command patterns and stuff like this, and I feel like this is fine. I feel like doing the command pattern is good, especially if we want like an undo system. For the edit system, the undo redo is actually based on a different, it's not based on like the commands themselves, it's based on like the impact of the commands. So in a sense, I don't think we actually need to have undo redo based be purely input based. It's based on outcomes, not inputs. So I think in that sense, maybe we don't need a full-blooded, like quote unquote, reified event queue where we like store the commands forever, which we're not doing. We're just dequeuing events. So in that sense, maybe a command, because like I'd written these commands to basically be like a class. So we'd have like a command class, and then we'd have like edit commands and like view commands. We'd have different commands that, and the problem is that kind of just goes down infinitely. It's useful in that each command would know how many, like, edit command knows that it has a type and that this is defining its subtype. And because it inherits command, it has an overall type. Oh, Simius. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. How are you doing? But I feel like we could also just have, like, a command struct. Or even better, we could just have, like, the array string of args, and we could just have a queue of these. Like, I don't even think we need to wrap these in anything, right? Then we could just have we could have like a command class that holds like the different enums. You're fine. What about me? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We've finished this big old entity component system that we wrote here uh, for our game. And so we're kind of just recreating some gameplay in our entity component system. So like here's our Godot stuff that we've written already. We basically have an editing environment where you can build these structures using this auto tiler. And so we can do all this stuff, but this is all being done in GDScript using like node. It's like node based and tile based. And like that's fine, but because our game is more simulation oriented, we've created an entity component system to manage it. So we're recreating some of this functionality. Put a roof on here, so you can tell when a room is compartmentalized because it turns this like almost white, this kind of off-white color. Because we have a system that can tell when an area is compartmentalized or not. We just made a little airlock. So pretty pleased with our auto tiler, but we need to remake this functionality. We need to remake some of that functionality in our ECS. That's cool. Oh, so the game, we're not explicitly recreating a game. We're kind of doing a isometric 3D version of FTL, faster than light. If you're familiar. Did many people come to the stream today? Not yet. We just started. We just started 15 minutes ago. We'll be streaming for like a few more hours. So you're the first on the Twitch side at least. We're multi-streaming to YouTube as well. And our viewership is kind of split between the two. Surprisingly, there are more people on YouTube than Twitch, which is not how I thought this was going to work. So hi YouTube. I know YouTube is a little less chatty than Twitch. But I appreciate you all for being here and hanging out with us. You're familiar? Awesome. Yeah. Do you do game dev Simius? It's an awesome name, by the way. I'm just checking out some different streams today. Appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging out and dropping the follow. We stream pretty much 5 days a week at this time, around this time. We do Tuesday through Saturday. So yeah, would love to see you in chat here. Still growing the channel a lot. We've been doing this for less than a year, so we're still a baby streamer. You're learning a language and doing small programs like calculators and similar stuff. I think that's great. I think that's a great way to start. Long ago, when I first started doing games, I've always just worked on bigger projects, and it's only recently that I've actually started just doing game jams instead, just to go through the whole experience. And like, you learn so much more quickly when you work on something small because you go through the whole life cycle of the thing. You learn all sorts of stuff. I mean, this project we're working on is huge, and that's fine. But like, I think it's good to have small projects like that, especially if you're learning something new, like a new language. I think that's great. I'm the first streamer to pronounce your name pretty much correctly. There are a lot. You do have 4 vowels in a row, which is tough. My principle is to just underpronounce. It's like if there's a simpler pronunciation, just go for that. Because people are fundamentally lazy, and I think they like to underpronounce things. Like if you have a choice between a more complex pronunciation and a simpler one, I think people over time tend to go for the simpler. All right, so we're working on the edit system, and we're thinking about our commands structure. I'm sure you do. Usually streamers call you Sim. I can call you Sim. That's fine. I think Simius is pretty cool as a name. Kind of enjoy saying the whole thing. You're fine with anything. Just don't call you late for dinner. Is that it? That's such a bad joke. That's such a bad joke that's like 100 years old. Yeah, so basically we're deciding how we want to implement our command system. So I decided, so the kind of direction that we're heading, which I don't know if I'm happy with, is like, so we've got like an edit command here, right? And we basically pass in just to keep the command system as flexible as possible, especially because the person calling the queue, enqueuing commands is the input handler, which is an auto load in Godot. But then all of the commands are processed by systems in C sharp. These don't talk to each other and they don't really know much about each other. So it's easiest for the input handler to just be like game.enqueue command. And game is kind of like the stitch between the two. Game is a node that is our root node of the Godot scene tree. And it's also a C sharp script. So it's like the one node that implements a C sharp script. It's like the bridge between our two contexts. So it kind of makes sense to funnel everything through here, which is why we have this command that's just this array of strings, which is then going to get interpreted. So we have like the first entry in the argument is like, it's like type. So these are edit commands, whereas like these are view commands. View commands would like alter the player viewer and might actually not go into C sharp. Actually, they probably do. They probably do need to get processed in the game simulation a little bit, because the view might trigger a change with the sync manager, with the scene manager, the sync system, which is like a scene manager that loads and unloads scenes as needed to keep the game simulation, the active game simulation, synchronized with the rendering side, the UI and rendering side. Because we're only going to load nodes for entities that need to be rendered. Within reason, obviously, there will be some margin. Temptic. Hey. Oh. Red alert. Red alert. We've got a raid. We've got Sorcery Story coming in. Uli V, hello. How's it going, Raiders? It's happening. Oh, man. Welcome in. I know I just hopped out of your stream like 30 minutes ago, so I could ask you how the stream went. But I feel like I kind of know. Hope you were productive. I hope you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish today. And if not, who cares? There's always another day. But welcome in. Thank you. Thank you for choosing Digital Iliad for your raid destination. Welcome in, Raiders. Most of it, there's always tomorrow. True. We're working on kind of an isometric 3D FTL-like in Godot. We've kind of, the bit that I can show is like our environmental scene, not this scene. Our environmental scene, like we're working on tools to build this game. We're still pretty early, so we've got this environmental auto tiler little builder thing that lets us build these structures that will eventually be like our ships. They're pretty bare bones right now, but it'll be something like this, and you can go make another one down here maybe. We can add a roof. So we've got our auto tiler, we've got this kind of tool builder. So we've got this isometric 3D environment set up. You can rotate things around. So pretty bare bones yet. We're working on a major revision. Cool. Thank you, Temptic. Oh, hey, Solar. Show game. Yeah, we're trying. There's no game, there's tools. We can show tool. So we actually just finished a pretty major feature set for this, which is we built our own entity component system in C sharp. So that's all stuff happening in Godot in like GDScript and in the Godot layer. We also have an entity component system that we wrote up in C sharp here. It's done, it works, it's got entities, it's got components. It's got buffers, which is great. That's the last thing we did was like big memory buffers for entities that need to store data outside the chunk. Now make a Godot logo in the building. It doesn't have that fidelity. Buffers even. I know that was the last thing we needed to do because I was thinking like when we're doing this, like when we're building our ships and like a ship needs a description of like its hull and stuff, right? Like it needs to know its tile map, what a tile map looks like. I can't really have each of these blocks be a component. That would be insane. Or an entity even. So like a ship is going to have a big data buffer that's basically like all of its blocks encoded in 3D. So like its positionality is like implicit in like the indexing into the buffer. So we have all that, we have that stuff. So a ship can like, you know, have its whole, all of its information, its tile information in a big buffer rather than just destroying our chunk utilization by trying to put that in a component. So yeah, all of that works. We're pretty happy with it. What we're doing now is we're kind of we're trying to implement some of that functionality I was showing off in ECS so that we can start editing and storing this data on the ECS side. We're not currently doing that. Currently, we're just editing and storing stuff directly in tile maps. But we want the tile map to be like derivative of whatever data we're actually storing. And so we're working on that. I'm kind of deciding on how I want to do my input command queue. And like the initial version that I did like a couple months ago, which I don't think I'm happy with, is like you have like an abstract command class which just accepts like a string of arguments. And then you basically start parsing it through. So like you receive the basic command, or you receive the command, whatever concrete subclass the command is, and you parse it through. So you figure out its type, and then you figure out like its subtype, and then you kind of go on and on. And I don't know if I love that. I kind of just maybe want to pass in the entire string of arguments and then just operate on it. This is kind of okay because we might be like, you know, directing commands to different systems depending on what state we're in. So like, I don't hate this, and it might as well be a class because it carries this array with it. So it's not like it's a performance intensive thing. But we're also not going to implement input level undo redo. So like, is it necessary? Need to raid and run? No worries. Thank you, Sorcery. Thanks for hanging out. No obligations ever to hang out. Raiding and running is understandable. I never end my stream until the last possible moment. So I understand. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll catch you tomorrow on your stream. And thanks for hanging out, Raiders. Appreciate it. Christmas time, what a time of year. I know it's insane. Nobody bugs me at work, which is great because everyone's on vacation, but I have so much to do that it's like it's very important. It's so hard to get things done around the holidays. Damn Scout, thank you. Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate that. I saw you in Sorcery's stream. We were talking about the benefits of Snake Case over Camel or Pascal. Hey, Smooth in a Second. How's it going? We'll see. We'll see if they behave. If they don't, I'll drop the ban hammer. And you'll know when I drop the ban hammer because you'll hear the dulcet tones. Oh. Apparently that doesn't happen. There's supposed to be a photon torpedo blast. But if I do ban someone, you will hear the distinct sound of a photon torpedo. Working while lurking, that is the way. Trevron, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate that. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to ignore these debugger errors right here. Some kind of engine. Some kind of condition p lm root thing that happens because we're modulating the tile map. I think we're going to change the way that we do that in the next version, so we're not going to get too bogged down in that. All right. So yeah, like I was saying, I don't know if I love my command class hierarchy because we're just passing these things. So like you pass a command, it starts with edit. So the initial system that processes it will split the commands into two buckets. Like we just enqueue command. Like we don't enqueue edit command or enqueue view command. We just enqueue a raw command. We parse the initial argument, which is the type. So edit, view, move, I don't know, whatever. We don't have a move yet, but we will. And then then that gets sent to the edit system. If the edit system is running, great. If it's not, I guess we just purge the inputs. I don't know. I don't know actually what we would do in that case. You wouldn't want to queue commands up for a system that's not running. Damn Scout asks the real questions. Favorite Trek. Favorite Trek. Favorite old Trek is obviously Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was like my childhood. Like Picard is like my TV dad, you know. Like I was raised at like 4 or 5 o'clock every day after school. I was watching Star Trek TNG on like a little TV in another room. So that was my life. There's no wrong answer, but there's one right answer. Okay, we'll see. And then favorite new Trek is easily Lower Decks. And if not for nostalgia, I would argue that Lower Decks is like the greatest Star Trek show that's ever been made. The reason you can't argue that is because Lower Decks depends on everything that comes before it to get its meaning. So like without TNG, without TOS, without those old scientists, Lower Decks doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist. So Lower Decks is in a way derivative, but it's also like the best. It's the best Trekker's Trek for sure. But we can talk about all of them. I'm waiting for Strange New Worlds, the next season of that. I liked Strange New Worlds a lot. I'm actually going through Discovery for the first time. I'm on like season 3 or something, like early in season 3. I'm watching that like one episode every week or two, just kind of slow burning my way through it like it's a new show. And I like it. It's definitely different. I don't get the hate for it. I think it's fine. You're a DS9er. I'm also going through DS9. DS9 is like the show I have on in the background every once in a while if I'm working on something tedious. DS9. DS9 is probably the best one in terms of like the mix of episodic and like serial content. Like DS9 does a bunch of stuff for the first time in a Star Trek series that every series since has just like gone all in on. Like DS9 is great. Uh, the only reason it's probably not my favorite is I'm a Babylon 5 fan. And Babylon 5 is like maybe better than Deep Space Nine. Don't tell anyone. You were there for the NYC premiere. You kickstarted it. Oh yeah, they did that DS9 documentary. I need to watch that. I'll watch that once I finish the show. I'll watch that when I finish the show for sure. All right. So what are we doing? So you paid extra to get a scene HD rendered. You have credits. Wow. I don't have a Blu-ray player, but I really want to get like the remastered TNG Blu-ray set because I'm watching it on stream and it's like not. I know it's supposed to be using the HD remaster, but it's like I don't know if it's the bit rate or whatever, but it's like not the same. At least not on Paramount Plus. When it was on Amazon, I feel like they were showing the HD remastered version, and it was like really good. And now I'm watching it on Paramount, and it like doesn't seem as good. So I don't know. I really would love to see some of those in full HD. Your younger son is named Julian. Well, that is I don't know if you can have a greater endorsement than that. Is his middle name Elam? That's great. Yeah, you're a DS9er. I get it. I get it. You were lucky to get Julian through. Yeah. Yeah, don't push your luck on Elam. You're like, I tried for Quark and it was no good. Yeah. Yeah, DS9, I didn't think I had seen all of DS9 when I started rewatching it recently, but it all came flooding back to me. Like, I definitely watched all of it as a kid and just didn't remember because I guess it just wasn't as formative to me as the Next Generation was. And I think at a certain point I got upset because I was like a huge Babylon 5 nerd, and there's all this stupid drama between DS9 and Babylon 5. But now that as an adult, I'm like, who cares? Who gives a shit? They're both incredible shows. They're the two best space station based shows of all time, which is like, niche a very niche award. But I love them both for different reasons. And we'll never get an HD remix or remaster of Babylon 5, so I'll take what I can get. All right, so I'm still unhappy with this. We should probably get to work. um, I'm unhappy with this because like the edit subsystem will then interpret the edit command to be either tool or save or load or undo or redo or whatever. But then it just keeps going because then it needs to interpret eraser or select, and then needs to interpret. It's basically endless. So like I don't know how much class inheritance stuff I want to do for this. Like in a sense it seems fine, but in another sense it's totally unnecessary. Because what we're not doing right now is we're not actually carrying on the what we could do, which would be kind of wasteful, is we could like yeah, you're done. Back to lurking. Yeah, no worries. No, I really appreciate it. It's not all the time that a true Trek diehard, a Trekker, or Trekkie. I guess we're Trekkies. We're not Trekkers. Trekkers are those old scientists. Uh, so yeah, the only thing is we aren't passing this information down. So like when we get the input, whatever, where do we do this? We do this in game. So game, when it enqueues a command, it parses the initial argument and creates a command. And it just knows it's a view command or an edit command. We need to store the arguments. We could do a slice. We could do like args dot slice, or do I need to do array? If I do a span, can I like, oh yeah, so we could do this. We could just trim things off. We could do like args as span. Uh, and then we would say start index would be 1. Oh, it's an index. Index. I don't love that we need to put in an index. Oh, it can be an int. It can be an int. Okay. So we'd say args and we'd say 1. We just pass in the 1. This is great because we're not reallocating data or we're not reallocating memory, but we can still just trim unnecessary arguments off. So we can just trim the initial. It's almost like we're popping the front off of the array as we pass it down. We encode and pop the front, basically. It's kind of what we're doing. And then a command doesn't actually need to know what came before it. It just processes whatever the initial thing is. This is kind of stupid, and I kind of don't think we should do this. But it's also maybe a little more robust to changes, and I like maybe don't care. I maybe am not like obsessed with like the performance. So we would change this to be args0 again. And we would need to store. So instead of passing in the args, you would pass in the command. No, that doesn't make sense. No, we want to pass in the args, I guess. Can it just be a span of string? Oh no, span of string. Oh, so this presumes that we have all of the information, huh? We could just say types. We could say command dot types dot type. And then instead of this parse, because we're parsing it here, because we need to parse it. Oops, we need to parse it here to know which command to make. So we would basically just say, so we parse this. I think this is really stupid. I don't think this is how we should do this. I'm really tempted to just send through this big old string array and just queue these up. Or at least queue up the spans. Maybe we just queue up the span directly. Well, I don't know if we can queue up a span. No, because spans are not heap objects. So we can only store this as long as... that's not great. I mean, I guess it's fine to put it on the stack, maybe. No, we can't do this. We can't do it this way. Yeah, I kind of don't love this. We also don't need this base class because this base class doesn't do anything for us. Maybe this command should become an I command. And then these all just become implementations of an I command. And then so we know, so command has some basic aspects to it. Maybe that's the better way to do it instead of doing this as an abstract class. Although we do still need like commands or a command. We still need command flags. Excuse me. I'm a little concerned about like kind of the endlessly nested nature of a command where like you could have a type and then a subtype and then another subtype and another subtype and like you could arguably keep going as far as you want. And I guess that's fine because the system processing it would know what to do. I've never had to actually do a reified input command system, so which is why I'm kind of just spending all this time deciding what I want to do, and it's like not clear. But if people have opinions on how they like doing input command systems, I'm happy to hear them. The obvious example is like the gameplay programming patterns command pattern. Like the obvious example. But this is like, one, it's written in C++, but the principle of it holds. It doesn't exactly work for us because they're putting the functionality on the command itself, which is not what we do. Because we actually want to think of these as, they're not entities because they're too short-lived to be entities. But like they only exist for a frame or two. So the other argument is that we make them as like event queues. We basically just make an event queue, which is kind of more what we want to do. Which has some problems. Which I didn't actually read this whole thing. Should probably go back and read this. I have this book. Got it recently. But it's all available online at gameprogrammingpatterns.com. I highly recommend this book by Bob Nyquist. Yeah, I'm gonna read this later. But we're just gonna keep going with what we think is best for now. What does the queue represent in game, or is it just quality of life for the player? It's so basically because of how we've split. So rendering and UI happen in Godot in the scene tree. Like you'll have mouse pickable nodes, node 2Ds, like characters running around, stuff like that. You'll obviously have UI windows on the screen. So we need to get this input into the simulation, and the way we're doing that is through an auto load. An auto load is basically like a global object. It's a node that just exists in every scene in Godot, no matter what. So that's a great use case for things like an input handler. And so that input handler takes these commands, it interprets the actions being pressed or mouse pickable stuff. I've only implemented the actions being pressed because we don't have anything mouse pickable running around. And to keep it vague, because this crosses contexts, all it's doing is enqueuing a generic command, which is just an array of string arguments, which go like base type, subtype, action, like action type, and then like specific action or something like that. Or it might even just be base type action. Like edit save is simple. Like an edit command that saves the editing context is simple, or undo redo. These are easy. And then stuff like this, which is like we're replacing the tool that we're using. Like if we want to place walls instead of floors or doors instead of walls, you have this kind of thing. So I'm just deciding the best way I want to move this data around. But is that something in the game? Like, is this something a player can see, or it represents commands being given to a computer? It represents commands. And these aren't, I keep saying the word reified, which is like the worst word. These aren't objects that we need to store indefinitely, because we're not going to undo, redo input commands. We're going to undo, redo the outcomes of input commands. So you're right in that they don't exist beyond their nature as a command. So we could kind of do anything. We could kind of just send in the raw array and just pass the raw array around. But the reason I don't explicitly want to do that is what if we change the implementation? Like, what if instead of edit tool eraser, we say something like edit, I don't know, what if we insert some additional step in between here? If everything is hard-coded just to read a specific index of the array, then it's like much harder to maintain. Whereas if we assign it to fields of objects as we go down, they become easier to create. And that way each system only needs to understand its most immediate context. So that's why I want to do it this way, where we construct these objects that represent this. But the complicating factor to that is you still need to store whatever additional information that's coming down the line. Like an edit command knows it's going to have a subtype, so it needs to store the subtype. But depending on what subtype it is, it either is done or it has additional context that it needs to store after that it doesn't know how to process. Like maybe all tools know that they have actions, but maybe not all actions have like instructions, like instruction contexts. Don't use arrays of strings. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, you want to use it for this part because a string of arguments is like the most flexible thing. You want to use it for the initial step. But as we pass through and start to basically route this call, as we start routing this call, we want to get more selective about what information we pass forward. And we want to get rid of information that we don't need. So, I don't know. Yeah, don't use arrays of strings or the instruction context as a null function. Yeah. Yeah. So that's messy. I am tempted to do something like the command pattern, where we basically just have this class that kind of morphs as it gets more specific, as it gets more and more specific. But the problem is that the more abstracted versions need to continue to pass down the instructions that have yet to be processed. I mean, I guess we could also get less specific. We could get more detailed about the commands at this level. We could have the input handler encode something more specific here. I just like how simple this is on the Godot side. But making it this simple on the Godot side involves making it more complicated on the C# side, on the simulation side. The next instruction. Input stuff always confuses you, Fox Shadow. Yeah, me too. I don't like dealing with it. I don't know if you've been here, but I think we're coming around to the idea of implementing this game as a turn-based game, and that's going to at least make it easier. It's going to make it a lot easier. But it also means we're going to need to queue up a lot of actions. Like, a view command will be executed immediately, right? Like, if you're just trying to manipulate your camera view and you're just inputting view commands, those will just get implemented unless we're locked into some kind of cutscene or dialogue scene or something like that. So we do maybe need to queue those up depending on what state we're in. But we also probably just want to ignore them if those commands are being input in that state. So we do want to flush the commands all the time, but like move commands need to be enqueued. And not only do they need to be enqueued, but if you submit, like if you tell character A to move, and then you tell character B to move, and then you click on character A and move them again, that would actually change their movement. So we would actually want to delete their previous instruction to move and replace it with this updated instruction. So actually, that's not even so much as of a queue as it is a dictionary, isn't it? Why the change? We'll get into that 1 second. I know there's a significant latency on the YouTube side, but we'll get into that. Dam Scout, you did a game about queuing up actions for a satellite traveling through the solar system. You had to program the actions, and there was travel time because space is big. I love that. And then you could delay commands and then correct commands if you made a mistake and it hadn't been run yet, etc. That is awesome. That is super cool. I would love to see how you did that. Because that's pretty cool. That's pretty complicated. You implemented an FTL style pause system in yours. Why not go that direction? It's an option. The gameplay sounded cool, but it couldn't make it fun. That's honestly the problem with like most simulation games. Is most simulation games are like really cool to watch the simulation, but I feel like the more complete the simulation, the like less room there is for fun gameplay. Fox, you made a tactical pause component that handles it for each object it's placed on. That's cool. That's cool. I don't love pausable real time because to me, pausable real time just feels like turn-based with extra steps. Because the turn is basically to me a pausable real-time game is a turn-based game with arbitrary length turns. It's like a WeGo system, but the length of the turn is like however long you feel like letting the game progress until you process more input. But I don't know. I'm just thinking about like the cognitive load on the player. I'm thinking about the cognitive load on the player. I'm thinking about the implementation of the entity component system. I'm thinking about like resolution of like combat. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff, and I feel like if we've got like 3 or 4 ships engaged in an action, and you need to zoom in on your ship to like move crew around, and then zoom out so that you can like target other ships with your weapons, and then you need to like zoom in on an enemy ship to like manage a boarding party that you beamed over. That feels like really hard to manage in a pausable real-time context. So is FTL turn-based with extra steps? To me, it is. Have you seen really hardcore FTL players play FTL? They will pause and then they'll basically do the Dwarf Fortress like single frame step thing. Like in Dwarf Fortress, you can just pass 1 frame. You can just be like 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame. And the FTL players will do that, but they'll do it with the pause key. Well, they'll unpause, pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause. And it's so they can target weapons like on a specific frame, like when a shield goes down, or they can like re-engage a system like immediately as soon as it's been like repaired or something like that, or they can like change weapon activities. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's cool. I think real time is good for the vibes. I think real time is great for vibes, but I feel like our game is going to cross a cognitive threshold where it's just too much for someone to think about in a real time context. So it's almost going to be more like Into the Breach than it is going to be like FTL in a number of ways, which is fine. Into the Breach is like a huge inspiration for us, especially in terms of like visual presentation. So maybe it's up to the. So I want this. My goal with this command system thing was for it to be minimally involved. Like, like you don't need the full context at every given step. That's what I wanted to avoid. So like in this game script in the game node, which just takes the generic enqueue command function, and it just takes a string of arguments. It parses the first layer of the argument, and then it turns that into a command, and then it sends it along. And then the next step just manages the next level and sends it along. And it's basically like no system needs to understand more than its own context of a thing. So the game doesn't need to understand all types of commands. It just needs to understand the base types of commands. It needs to understand whether it's a view command or an edit command. It doesn't need to know the difference between a tool command and a save command and a load command and an undo command and a redo command. That'll be handled by the edit system. So I like this process for like limiting responsibility and for limiting the context that any given system needs to understand. I just haven't decided how I want to construct or how I want to trim the arguments down. Maybe, if I made this a list, it would be better, but I can't make it a list really. Oh, I could say as list. Or I can say, can I make it a list? Or is it to list? Oh, that uses link. I don't want to use link. I liked as span. As span was cool. I mean, the simplest thing to do is to just pass the entire command argument, the entire list of arguments onto the next system, and the next system just picks up at the next index. But we talked about why that's messy because like what if we add an intermediate step? We have to shift all of the things. Maybe instead of a raw string of args, we have like a thing called like a command and it has like an index and it's like the next step and it just tracks that index as it goes along so you like know what you processed and you can just be like next. You can be like get next or something like that and it just gives you the next thing. That's kind of tempting. Then we're not allocating all this memory as we like morph our command thing. What if we did this? So what if a command had like a private, maybe it kept a reference to its args. And you could do something like next. You could have like a get next. You have something like this. Or it could be like this. It could be like string be like next instruction. I don't know. Next arg. I don't know. Be like args. Could even just be this args and next plus plus. And then so we retain full knowledge of the command, and the command doesn't actually need to know its types. I mean, it can. could have some constructors here. So we could have like command public command string args, in which case it would be this dot args is args. Type is args next. Types could be next arg. Oh, it would be enum.parse next arg. So we could have this, and then we could have another public command and then we could basically have a command cmd. Oh, we can't really do it like that, can we? I get how this would work. I'm not totally 100% on how the subtypes would work. So like this is fine because you'd pass in the arguments. The arguments would get stored. The type would be inferred from the next argument, which would be, in this case, index 0 of the args. And it has the benefit of also just automatically incrementing the next. But then, and then I understand this one. So this one would be, can't be a span. It would still just be that string of args. Will its base class be initialized first? So what would happen if I say get next? This dot, no. If we turn this into an explicit constructor? It would be base dot get next, right? Oh, it's not called next get next. It's called next arg. So this is fine. Oh, so I can do this here. Problem is this doesn't support any further nesting really, I don't think. Like if I wanted to have a sub type, well, I would need to call it sub type, but I also don't think we can do this base args thing. Like I can't turn this command into another base command. Like I can't have another command that inherits from this very easily because the initial command is abstract. This also shows off how I don't like OOP, and yet I feel forced to use it here in this context. I'm not forced to use it, but it's the most obvious one that most obvious example I've seen is using kind of this OOP command pattern. And so if we have this edit command that inherits from this abstract class command, then if we want like a tool command that inherits from this edit command, I guess it doesn't need to inherit, does it? These don't really need to inherit, huh? As long as they just keep passing on the important information, and they don't need to pass on the previous information. Oh, okay. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind about how I want to do this. This will be way easier. We're gonna do it. We're gonna implement an I command. We're gonna implement an I command. It's going to require that you keep a string, an array string of args. Interfaces cannot know. Okay, that's fine. So instead, what it needs to provide is a next arg property. Here's args. I think we want a next. I think next arg is good. So for debug purposes, it makes sense, and also for allocation reasons, it makes sense to just keep passing this array around. That's the initial argument array. We want this get next arg function. Don't want a set though. We just want like a get and like an init. Is there anything else it needs? I guess the command needs to have a type. Oh, but now we can't. It can't be an enum. I guess it's fine if it's a string. Maybe it can be this. Maybe it can have like. Can we do this? I like interfaces, but I'm not the most informed. So can we have this types enum and then define types for the given command? We can. I love that. Okay, so then we can have public types type. Okay, this is coming together. This is coming together. We're not going to have any inheritance. We're just going to have I commands. And so each command doesn't care about the information that came before, really. It'll store it probably for accountability reasons so that we can track how a command, how an instruction moves through its like lifetimes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be cool. So we have an I command, and then edit command is actually going to implement I command. It's going to have a types enum. These are its types. Type, type. Oh, types, type. Never run into this issue before. What is this complaining about? Use return type types of base property. Oh. Wait, does this not count as an implementation of the... Hold on. Let's implement the missing members. Can we just say this? Why doesn't that work? I mean, I guess I don't care, but... I also don't want it to be this. I don't think I want it to be this. Oh, next arg. This isn't next arg. Next arg is just a string. Or next arg is a... Yeah, it's a string. Oh, but it can't be? Because it can't... Hold on. Hold the phone here. 2 usages. Own usage, I command. Oh, so this isn't... Can this be like an... Okay, enums can't be abstract. That makes sense. Maybe I command needs to have a list of all types, which is fine, I guess. If we need to list all the command types here, we do the same thing from components. It's not ideal, but I guess it's fine. Okay, so next arg, so that's not this. So it'll be string next arg. Yeah, you can't require... Well, if we have to enumerate the types here, this might as well actually just be a single class, huh? Or a struct type or something. Because the reason I was going to have this be an interface was so that each class, each implementation of the interface could enumerate its own list of types. But if that's not possible, it might make sense to just have a single struct or sealed class or something. Yeah, it's a little weird how this works. Maybe we do this like this. Oh, right. We don't want this to be read only. So I guess this can be a class. This is fine. Let's try it like this. So yeah, the only downside of doing this as a single class, I guess we do it here instead, is that we would need all of the types to be enumerated. Or we could have types and then subtype. But again, then we have the problem of like, what about subtype? Maybe I'm getting preoccupied with implementing type as an enum. Maybe it should just be a string. Maybe we just don't care. What's the benefit of having it be different implementations? All right, I'm kind of butchering this a little bit. I'm kind of waffling between two different implementations. This I don't get. So interface, enum, implementation, C sharp. Yeah, I want to be able to define an enum. I want to be able to say an iCommand has to have a types enum, but I want it to be a different enum for each implementation of iCommand. That I cannot seem to do with an interface, which is fine. That just kind of ruins. I guess the only way to do this in a generic way Polymorphic enums. It's not exactly what I want, but that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm trying to do. Using enums as implementations for an interface. Yes. Oh, this is in Java. They're just using straight strings. I mean, I guess I can do that. Yeah, okay, so declaring an interface or declaring an enum inside an interface does not do what I want it to do. Okay. You demand a stretch? All right, no, Joel. How's it going? You get a stretch. I get a stretch. We're all getting a stretch. All right, that was good. Thank you. Thank you for saving me from myself there. How's it going, by the way? All right, so I think the simplest thing to do is to just have like a public string, call it like command type. So it has a next argument. So an I command you can call the next argument on. Command type you could call the next, you can get your command type. But if we do it this way, this really doesn't need to be an interface. Because there's no distinguishing features of a given one. You might as well just have a single command class like this. So we have our string, our argument string, we have our next command, our constructor, instead of having an enum. I guess if it's just a string, then we don't have an enum list we need to maintain either. We just have to have a list of recognized strings. So we'd have string. I guess we'd put this in a different order. Just say public string command type. Init. And command type is just, you don't need to parse with the enum. You don't need to do anything. You just say next arg. You just call the next arg in the constructor. And this is a generic command that we can make once and then pass it around. And it has all the information you need. It will be interpreted and placed in like the correct queues and stuff. I need to clean up some stuff here. So like, I don't hate this. One inheritor. Oh, we gotta fix that. Probably destroy those files. Args. Read-only field args is never assigned. Oh, this is the wrong script. This one. Field can be made a read-only. Yes, it can. Although, this isn't exactly how I'd want to structure this. Because I don't want to just keep remaking commands every time. I just want to interpret the next command. So it's actually, I actually don't want to store command type. I just want next. Maybe this can just be a primary constructor. So primary constructor parameter. So primary constructor parameter, that turns into a like a backing field, right? Like we hold on to this. Is what the compiler is telling me. I want to understand this. Oh, I wish they would explain this a little better. Primary constructor parameter. Because they seem to work differently in different contexts. I guess records are like a good way to do that. So primary constructor parameters for non-record types are mutable. Okay, so yeah, so it is, there is a difference. So the fact that, so this doesn't really make sense why it's telling me to do this. Because the mutable string args is not the same as the read-only string array args here. So it's kind of weird that it's telling me to replace it. Okay, so if I make it a record struct, all this step. Oh, so this is being turned into a backing field by the record struct. Yeah, this is kind of awkward. I don't know if I love primary constructors in all cases. Yeah, so if I'm getting kind of distracted by this, but I'm trying to understand the reason it's doing this. Oh, oops. It's recreating stuff for me down here, which I don't want. It's not the way I want to do this. Let's just look at this. Let's look at it like this for now. Let's forget about the fact that it's like telling us we don't need this. I think it's wrong. I think I'm going to disable this with once with comment. Because we do want this to be read-only if we're going to do this as a class. All right. So let's just do let's leave it like that for now. So we'll parse. So we're going to switch off of arg0. We're going to say case view edit. We're going to say new command. We need to change the input to take just commands. So we have a bunch of command queues. Okay, so this is okay. So it'll switch off of the initial argument. Actually, what we should do is it should be variable command equals new command args, and then we should switch off of command dot step. Then we just enqueue the command. So this way, the command is this object that we create that understands the full chain. It keeps track of the full chain of its instructions. And then if we want to get the next instruction, we just call step. And so we do that. So then in the edit system, we would say while game.inputCommands.count is greater than 0, we'd say command is game.input.commands.dequeue. And then we would route it further by just calling command.step. So we'd say like switch command.step. And it's like switches aren't the best, but I think it's okay here because like if we don't catch a case, that means we haven't implemented it. So I think for now this is okay. I don't think it's amazing. What is the case syntax for C#? Case view colon, okay. Or case argument colon. So case, so it would be like tool, we support tool. We support save. We support load. Oh, we should support like exit. So like if we receive an input and it's like exit, we should just close the whole program. I actually don't know how to close the whole program. I haven't had to do that in a minute. Handling quit requests. GetTree.quit. In C#, that's getTree.quit. SceneTree.quit. Oh, so we want to send a quit notification. What we should do is we probably like ask for confirmation and then quit. We should do this. So if we want to handle exit, case exit, we do this. So I don't have get tree. I should have this. Cannot access non-static. Oh, cannot access non-static method in a static context. I see. We can make this not static. get tree.root. So we propagate the notification that we want to close, and then we say, how does propagate notification work? Okay, so that should be fine. And then we say get tree dot quit. Okay, so we can handle a quit. Making a breakout here is kind of dumb, but okay, so we can handle an exit command at least. We'd probably want to add in like a confirmation prompt. Probably want it to be more complicated than this, but having this seems okay. Hey, Fusionist, how's it going? How are you doing today? Kind of still working on our processing input. Yeah, I'm all right. Tried to get up for early for work today. It did not work out. I couldn't get out of bed. So I started my day a little late, but we're doing all right now. I had a coffee, feeling good. Had coffee, had breakfast, did a couple hours of day job stuff, a few hours of day job stuff. Now we're making games. There's days like that, yeah. I'm not doing a good job at like going to sleep on time. So if our next command step is one of these, so it's save load, tool save load. We also support undo and redo. So we support all of these. Oops. Okay, I like our new command object. It keeps track of where in the command process we're at. We only have one of them per command. We don't need to like propagate anything. Super simple. It just keeps track of the arguments. It keeps track of the step that it's currently on. You can return that step or the next step. Super simple. Barely an inconvenience. Your profile picture makes it hard to tell if you're online or not. I have been informed of that before, and it's unfortunate. Oh, I forgot to go live today on Discord. I don't know why that reminded me. Send that real quick. Oh, we got some new additions to our Discord. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome, folks. Got the same person twice. That's okay. Welcome. I can't read your whole name for privacy reasons while streamer mode is enabled, but welcome to the Discord. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. It's kind of my brand, that like black and white icon. So nice you see them twice. I know, I actually don't know how that works. Maybe they joined Discord and then left the server and then joined it again on accident. Hopefully they're not a bot. I added some bot defenses to the Discord, but they haven't really been tested yet. All right, let's get rid of all these other various commands. Delete all these various failed attempts at making a command. In which case we can actually just don't need a whole folder to store one thing. Delete. Simple. Maybe the our ECS could work as a plugin because we could, while we need the project itself to define the relevant components, and those are project specific. iHeartPandas, you can join and leave multiple times to test it. No pressure. No reason to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you and welcome in today. We're working on kind of the input output stuff right now. We're kind of done with our entity component system for now, and actually we're working on gameplay systems again, which is exciting, but it's kind of a weird change of pace. Kind of hard to make decisions again on the game. I think we made a pretty big decision yesterday, which I think we're gonna set this game up as a turn-based game. I was kind of angling towards real time before, but I'm really coming around to the idea of doing this as a turn-based game for a number of reasons. I guess sending the Discord notification helped because a bunch of people just popped in. Whoops, that I forgot that. Whoops. If anyone gets spammed Discord messages by this new member, let me know. I'm always scared of that sort of thing from happening. Oh, I think this person left the server again. Or maybe they're just offline. Oh, they're just offline. Okay. I was like, what is going on? Dark Shadow. Welcome to the Discord. Oh, you're also causing duplicate messages. Maybe that's a Discord problem. Am I maintaining some sort of design document? Not really. We have an Obsidian vault that we like to use sometimes, but I've kind of just been using it for like, ever since I discovered Canvas, I'm kind of just using it for flowchart stuff. I don't feel like a strong need to like write a bunch of stuff about it. I'm starting to fill it in with some narrative structure stuff, and I think that's more what I'm gonna use it for, is as we develop more narrative stuff, I'll start storing some like narrative things in here. But right now we aren't really using it for game design per se. I'm not a huge design doc guy because my systems tend to change so much. Just checking to see what we got here. My systems tend to change so much that it doesn't totally make sense. But as systems mature more, maybe we'll get more into that. But I think also once I start working more on concrete systems and like especially narrative things, I think we'll do a lot more writing. Yeah. Like I don't think I'll ever do a pirate software jam because I don't want to spend 2 weeks writing a game design document. I think game design documents become much more important. One, when your team gets bigger, like as soon as you become a team of greater than one person, I think you need a design document. And two, if you like have some idea what you're doing, I think game design documents are also good. But I think if you like are experimenting on something and you have no idea which direction it's going to go, I feel like you're going to end up rewriting your design document all the time. You asked because real-time return-based sounds like a big deal of a decision. Even I don't pivot like that after starting. Well, originally I did intend for this to be a turn-based game, and then at some point I went a different direction. Oh, Volano, you're Dark Shadow. You just joined from here. Yeah, it's probably a Discord problem. Okay, yeah, it probably is. If this is affecting two people and they didn't do it on purpose, yeah, it's probably a Discord problem. But thanks for hopping in. I really appreciate that. If you're working on anything, I would love to see it. Yeah, we've got a share your work channel. It's probably the most active channel in the Discord. It's a really small community so far, but I hope to grow it over time. All right, we can probably get back to work now. Yeah, I don't normally notice people joining the Discord right away, but I just happened to be on the screen at the time, and it's great to see. But yeah, when you're after working on this game for a long time, I've got a lot of stuff in my head as far as like aspects of the game that I think that I'm struggling with in terms of like the cognitive load, the implementation, all it's kind of like a point cloud of like little things. And like yeah, I could write them all down and it would probably help a lot. But my vibe right now that I'm getting from all of those thoughts, all of those like haphazard thoughts is that like maybe we try turn-based. If we do turn-based and we don't like it, we can always just Diablo 1 it and just make it real time by just turning the turn speed up and removing the end turn prompt. Just turn it into like a WeGo system, like a weird real time WeGo thing. Fusionist. Well, going solo, you don't always need to note things down, as you said. Curious to see my approach. This is my approach. My approach to game dev is I sit down to program, I identify the thing that most needs attention, and then I work on that thing. And working on that thing, either you finish that thing and you pop back up a level. So like you start working, you push down a level, and you're like, all right, this is the thing I need to work on. Sometimes that causes you to push down again because you're like, to do this thing, I need to do this other thing. And then when that thing is done, you can pop back up to the thing you were doing before. And when that's done, you can pop back up to like the overview and like pick another thing to work on. Sometimes you end up pushing down so many layers that by the time you pop back up, you're like, what was I even working? What were we doing this for? And that's a little disorienting, but that's my approach. Some people have a motivation problem when they do that approach because they're like, it's kind of hard to follow along that thread sometimes and you can really get stuck in the weeds. But as long as you don't break the project very often, as long as the project is almost always playable, it's I don't run into that problem personally. All right, so in the game, we're in queuing the command. So we're stepping the command. So we create a new command with args. The args is like the full command string. In here, that's fine. So we initialize a step. Step initializes at 0. So when we call step for the first time, we get the first argument. The first argument is like the base type, which is like view or edit or maybe exit or whatever. Depending on what that is, we might do different things. Like here, we'll enqueue to the edit commands queue if it's an edit command. And then in the edit system, if the edit system is running, we'll do all of this stuff. We'll pop commands out of the queue. I feel like doing a queue is kind of dumb because I think we're only ever going to have one command a frame. But in case someone spams and we end up having more than one command a frame, I want to be able to support that, so we have a queue. And then so that command, so now the command, which is the same thing, can just be like command step, and it gives us the next step of the command. Which at this point, for an edit, in an editing context, we expect tool or save or load or undo or redo. We should probably have a default case that's like Fusionist, you tend to write us a long wish list and plow through it while ignoring the tasks that are least important. I think if we had deadlines, we would get out a whoop ad. Yeah, all right. I'll talk. Let me know when you're back, or I'll just get back to you in 3 minutes. Um, I'm gonna go grab some water real quick. We'll be right back while the ads are running. I really appreciate everyone for being here. All the sorcery story raiders that decided to stick around. Anyone else that came in since then. Thanks for spending part of your Wednesday here with me. Hope you're having a good day. And yeah, I'll be right back in like 1 minute. All right, the ads aren't over, but I'm back. I should probably play music during the ads. Play like one song or something while I'm taking a break. All right, so we're getting our commands, and now we can do something with them. And we're back. All right, great. Yeah, so you were saying that you tend to write a long wish list and plow through it while ignoring the tasks that are least important. Yeah, I think that's a. I think the danger is usually the other way around, where you work on the easy stuff and forget about the stuff that's most important. But my process has the benefit of I'm always usually working on the most egregious issue, because the first time when I sit down and I pick the thing to work on, the thing I work on is usually the most egregiously missing or the most obvious thing to work on. But yeah, it's a having that perspective or maintaining that perspective as you get into the weeds is tough. And I think my system would fail completely if I was working under a deadline. So if I was working under a deadline, I would probably make a Kanban board or something like that, or yeah, make a to-do list or something. But since our progress is kind of open ended, we just work on whatever makes sense to work on next. We're just working. So right now, so we've got our commands. We're processing the next layer of commands. Having this as a switch is a little gross, but I think it's fine. What's really gross is if I start using nested switches. So we should probably call some kind of tool function here so we can process the next tool. Probably have like down here we could have probably like public private. Probably have maybe up here have like private void. Have something like run tool command command. Or maybe for a tool, maybe like here it is. So like if we get save or load, that probably breaks out of this context. We'd probably do something like game.world.save, and that would just be the end of it. Although I guess a save in the edit system is very different than a save in the other system. So maybe we don't implement it that way. Maybe the edit system does do some saving. But for tool, maybe we just have another switch case, which I don't love, but maybe that's like the simplest way to do it, where we have another switch that's like, yeah, case erase, case select. I'll be right back. 1 second. Why would that be different with a deadline? Yeah, well, let's get into that 1 second. Sorry, slight, something just came up. Sorry about that. I had to take care of something real quick. So Fusion asks, why would that be different with a deadline? Is it a non-scoped approach? I mean, like the thing about my approach is like, I start with the most obvious thing, and I push down into whatever needs to be done to get that done, and then I push down and push down. I push down as far as I need to go, but the problem is that's digressive. Like it's really easy to get caught out on a tangent because it's kind of like a if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe kind of problem where you start out just trying to make an apple pie and you push down a few layers and you're like inventing dark matter. Like like that's kind of how it happens sometimes when you start with like a game system or something you're trying to implement and then you very quickly get like deeper into the low level programming involved. So yeah, if you have a deadline that can get really bad and you might lose you know, sight of the goal. Like cuz like that's not what I do if I'm doing a game jam. If I'm doing a game jam and like I have 48 hours or 72 hours or something cuz those are the only game jams I like to do. I don't like to do 2 week game jams. Um, so if I'm doing a short game jam like that, I do the opposite thing. I like list out here are all of the things that need to be done to have a finished game. And then I go through that and I like split it up by day. I'm like, all right, day one, I'm going to try to do this. Day two, I'm going to try to do this. Day three, I'm going to try to do this. You add some padding in there. And each day you reevaluate. So you finish day one to see everything you got done, see everything that still needs to get done, and you cut content or, you do whatever you need to do because you have a deadline and you need to execute on X number of things by, Y date. And so I think you need a different approach for that. But when you're doing what I'm doing, you got a day job, you're working on a game open-ended, you're just trying to make the best game. Just work on whatever seems like the most important, the most, most obvious thing, and then work on the next most obvious thing. And, it's a little tough because you don't end up with like a very good, you don't always end up with a good horizontal slice where you've implemented the whole thing very generally. Sometimes you end up getting these vertical slices. Like we spent 2 months basically just making an entity component system and some other things. Like it was more like 6 weeks, but still. But that's done now basically, and we can move on to something else. Like, was it a little too much? Could I have gotten away with a little less? Probably. We still ignored a lot of stuff that we could have done that we didn't because we don't need to yet. Like our ECS is only single threaded. It runs on the main thread. Right now, that's fine. That may not be fine eventually, but right now it's like, who cares? We don't have a command buffer system. And by command buffer, I mean like an instruction buffer to the ECS. Like if you add an entity, that entity gets added immediately. We don't wait until the end of the frame or something like that, which we have a pretty robust query system, so we don't necessarily need that, but maybe we will eventually, especially if we end up running the ECS on a separate thread, we definitely will need some kind of frame buffer thing so that we can, make sure the whole ECS is done and then, let the rest of the system do what it needs to do. But I don't know. Okay, so we have an error here. Why is it? So I don't love this. I don't want to do this. This like switch, case, switch, case, switch again. I don't want this. I think this is probably the cleanest way to do it because the other alternative is to have tool, case tool, and then you just call a function that's basically this switch anyway. So I think that's just hiding the problem. So it's kind of inelegant, but I think in some cases it's the best we can do. I also maybe, oh wait, we need select because tool could also mean place. I think instead of select, maybe we'll have swap. Let's change our structure for this a little bit. I think I would like something a little differently, and I would like to maybe remove some of the nesting. So right now we have like edit, tool, eraser, swap. And this is, I guess actually we do kind of want this. We want edit, tool, eraser, swap because that's like if you hit E. So like if you hit E, if you're using the eraser, it's no longer the eraser. But we might have a button somewhere that's like the eraser button. And like maybe that always engages the eraser. But right now it's implied that edit tool eraser swaps the eraser. So I'm just going to get rid of swap. Swap doesn't mean anything right now. Maybe this is part of select though. Do that. So let's say something like, so case eraser. So if it's the eraser, we can just do the eraser thing. So we can just say block eraser mode equals not block eraser mode. We just swap the block eraser mode. For select, we would want another switch, which is like not the best. Well, for select, maybe we say something like, yeah, this is kind of horrible in a way, but it's also like maybe the simplest way to do this right now. Maybe we want run to be non-parameterized here. Maybe we don't want to force run to have a parameter. If we do that, can it optionally have a parameter? So like what if we go into the iSystem? What if we take this out as a requirement of it? Then we go back in. Not using delta time. What if instead of this, what if we just had this? I know this is kind of stupid and kind of a cop-out, and I said it kind of was. What if we say, like, tool, what if we say, like, tool system dot run command? Actually, what if we do it this way? What if we say input, what if we say game dot input dot what if we had tool commands? I know this is a little silly to do it this way. What if we did this? And so the edit system just processes the edit commands and then passes along. So what if we did tool commands.enqueue command? And then the tool system, if the tool system can run, processes that. Then we need to keep track of system run order somewhere, but that's what the main system is for. The main system just runs the other systems. So we'd run the edit system, and then we'd say, like, also this doesn't have to be like this. There we go. We can say if game.input.toolCommands.count is greater than 0, we can say tool system.run. Is that stupid? Is that like really, really a dumb way to do this? It keeps us from having these enormous, it keeps us from having that switch of switches of switches. Look. Which is fine. You can make a game, you can make a game that's just one long chain of if statements, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It just might drive me insane to have to look at that for like 4 years. Whereas this is stupid in a way, but it's also like kind of great in a way. Save, load, undo, redo. Fusionist, you don't know a great way around that, honestly. Yeah, me either. Like, we're in danger of like getting a little too clean code with it, where we're like hiding complexity through like function calls, but we're not actually addressing the core complexity issues themselves. But like, that's fine. I kind of prefer this because like if we just like we could easily implement a version of the edit system that handles every possible contingency, where it would know how to handle a tool command, a save command, a load command, an undo command, a redo command. And like, but to me, it's easier to just take the edit commands, recognize which ones are the tool commands, and then just queue those up for the tool system. And then if it's appropriate to run the tool system, great, the tool system can deal with that. The only thing is, it seems like every frame we're probably going to want to flush some commands, but maybe not. And if we decide to do that, great. If that's what we decide to do, who cares? But yeah, I think that's better than just having the edit system understand how to implement every single one of these commands and then just have this enormous spaghetti code of like switch cases within switch cases as we like step through these commands. I kind of want a command.next and a command.last. Because like, let's say you submit a save command to the save system. Well, it matters what context that save command was in, right? So if you send an edit save, that's different than sending like just a live save, like save my game versus save my construction, like save my ship construction. So like in one case, we could just infer which one it is from the game state. Like if we're in an editor state or we're in like a live state, the save system can infer what you want to do. But we could also add a verification step where the save system gets the save command and then it goes command.last to get the context of the command. And if it says edit save, if the last is edit versus like live or I don't know, whatever, who cares, whatever else you might want to save, um, it'll know how to handle that differently. So I think that's kind of fancy. So let's add that. So instead of step, we'll say we could call it next, or we could call it back, or last, or we could call it back. I think step back is better, maybe. It would be like step forward or like step back. Or we could call it next and last. Although last can be implied to read like the final. So maybe last isn't the best word. Antonyms for next. I could call it prior, but I get kind of obsessed with like variable name length. I think that would be kind of okay if we do it that way. If we do like command.next versus like command like last. I think it's a little ambiguous, but I think it's clear enough to me instead of doing step. Okay, so it would be step. How do we do this? How did we handle this for the query? Query. Public static params for entities. I think I want to do next and back, not next and last. Although maybe last is command up back, command up next or last. Yeah, maybe that's fine. So you'd say next and you'd get this. I think I want peak to be different than step. So like step advances it, but I think we want something called like peak, where you can just like look at what the next one would be without changing it. So peak would be like args step plus 1. And so the difference is one changes the state and the other one just like gives you an idea of what's next. But I want a peek forward and a peek back. And I also want a step forward or a step back. So it would probably be like this. We'd say like step forward, peek forward. Or maybe it would be like look forward. We can be like look. Then we can have the same thing. We can have like public string look backward, back. Sorry, I was deciding what words I wanted to use. But yeah, I think this is it. So we can have, so you can look ahead or behind, and you can also step ahead or behind. Because look would be good, because like if we step forward and then we want to look back to get the context of our command, I think that's okay. Make it singular. Look forward, look backward, step backward. We call it like look ahead, like look behind. Step forward, step backward, look ahead, look behind. I think that's good. Gives us some. Oh, we just need to change some stuff. Oh, we need to implement a tool system. Where's the iSystem? Oh, so this isn't requiring an implementation of ready, which is interesting. It just supports an implementation of ready. I guess we actually maybe don't need this iSystem interface. I don't think it does anything for us because the move system doesn't just have a list of iSystems, it has like the concrete actual systems to process. And we want that because we actually want to specify a system order. We don't want to just have a list of systems and go through them. So maybe iSystem is an unnecessary implementation detail. Let's get rid of it. I don't think we need it. That frees us to specify, like, if a main system, like main system does want delta time, and then, but not every system that follows main system wants delta time. Like the move system would want delta time. But like some systems might not care. The tool system can implement, so let's get rid of iSystem. It'd be cool to like free all inheritors of a thing, but I'd kind of deleted it, so it's probably not. It probably was an option, and then I just didn't take it. I think if we supported an arbitrary number of systems, we'd have like a system ordering thing. This is the difference between like my entity component system and like Unity's entity component system. Is like Unity's ECS needs to be able to support an arbitrary number of systems that run it at like in like different frame groups or like different, I don't know what they call it. They call it system groups, which run at like different points in the frame and like this whole thing. We have like a really simple thing here, so we can just be simple. We need complexity later, we can add it. We just don't want to try to be prescriptive. So we can see command and we can say step forward. Although having this be a property and not a function is like maybe not the best. It should probably be a function. Like I think it's weird to tell something to do something without doing that. We also don't need this to be a class, I've decided. This can be like a struct. So step forward actually returns a command. Oh, wait, no, that's why we don't want to do that. I mean, it could still be a struct, but I guess it might as well be a class. I was thinking like we could have step forward, like do a, like recreate the struct with just an incremental step. We don't actually want to get the command back from this. We could do this in a way that's not transformative. We could also do it this way. We wrote it like this where we have a look and we have a step. We could also just have a, we could also do it like this. We could do like last step is step minus minus. Do it this way too. But I guess there's a finality to last step, so I don't want to do it like that. I like step forward, step back. I guess the more best thing to do would just say next step, and we would just say step back. Getting a little bogged down in naming conventions, as one does. Look back, look next, step back, step next. I don't know if I like that as much. I think I like maybe the more verbose thing that I had before. Step forward, step backward. Look ahead, look behind. Don't think we want to support look ahead. Because look ahead means they're like cheating and you're processing multiple steps. Maybe we just want next step and look back. Because that's really all you'd want to do is you'd either want to get the next step or occasionally you'd want to look back at the context that this came from if that's been lost. Let's start with this. Seems fine. And then like the save system could look back, could take the command and look back. If it needs to. If it needs more of the context than it currently has. Oh, we do want the current step though. We want to, like, we might get a command and we might want to double check its current step. You like just a public string, this step. I don't love that. Current step. Could end up, I guess last step is ambiguous, so we don't like last step, but we could do like final step. Could say like final step. And then we just get the last, whatever the end of the argument is. I guess we need to check for terminus. Maybe not, because we should never try to get, if we want an argument, we should have the argument. If the argument isn't there, then we've malformed the instruction. Maybe we don't want to DQ. Can we peak? Is there a peak? I'm thinking about the last four cases here. Save, load, and undo, redo. Like, we don't need a save system and a load system. We don't need both. We're not going to run both at the same time. Loglot, you love FTL. It's been a while since you played it, though. Yeah, for sure. We're making kind of like an FTL-like. We're making a, well, you know that. But we're making an, I meant to say we're making like an isometric 3D kind of version of it. We're working on some tools right now. But our goal is to have a fun little, possibly turn-based version of FTL. That's a little bigger in terms of scale, like bigger ships. It's 3D, so it's kind of like the 3D chess version of FTL. Like there'll be multiple decks stacked up. But yeah, thanks for coming in. I also love FTL, and I probably should play some of it again. I need to play some of the mods. There's like this big expanded mod that has like a bunch more ships and events and stuff like that, and I kind of need to play that. Right now we're working on some input-output stuff. All right, so save load. So for a tool command, so we have a couple of options here. We can have the command be dequeued from the edit commands, which I think is the best thing to do. We could also do a peek. Oh my god, irregular human is raiding us. Humans! Defend, we don't want humans on our ship. Battle stations. Prepare to repel borders against the dastardly humans arriving. How's it going? How are you doing, a regular human? How was the stream? I don't think I've seen you around. What kind of stuff do you work on? Give you that follow. Stream was awesome. That's awesome. This is great. Oh, thank you for the follow. We're working on an FTL-like in Godot here. We're kind of making a isometric 3D kind of version. We're still early days. We're kind of working on the tools that we need to make this game. So we've got some tools that work. Got kind of like, hopefully I haven't introduced any compiler fail. Oh, I did. Tool system does not contain a definition for run. Oh, that's a problem. Control cannot fall out of switch from final case label. Oops. Well, let's fix some stuff because I want to show you some of the tools we've got work. Oh yeah, obviously that would break. And then we want tool system. I don't think the tool system exists, so let's not try to run that. You've been meaning to play FTL for the first time? Go for it. It's usually like $10 or less. It's a huge value. Oh, you bought it already. Yeah, you're good. Why are we unable to fail? Command does not contain a definition for step. Oh. Give it to me. Okay, so we're calling this next step. Yeah, I think making this a property is like not great because it's like silently changing the state of the command. I think if I made it a function, it would be more clear that it's doing that.
Maximum warp.
Maximum warp. Thank you, Nujul. I agree. Finally, someone using sealed classes as intended. Oh yeah, we love to do it. So yeah, here's our we have a little auto tiler tool with a compartmentalization system. So like we can tell when a compartment is sealed against outer space. So like here's like a compartment. Let's make just a compartment here that's open. So it's all this same kind of drab gray because it's just open to outer space here. So we can get rid of this. Oh, get rid of this, I said convincingly. Now let's go down and let's make an actual proper room. This. Yeah, see it changes colors. So this is compartmentalized, so we can have that FTL explosive decompression stuff. And we can keep working on it. So let's go down another level. So this is kind of the tool we're going to eventually use to build our ships. Kind of rough right now, but the idea is there. I want to keep working on this, so let's turn it around a little bit. Let's add a roof. Maybe add some doors. Add a double door. And a little kind of little airlock deal, maybe. Like this. So yeah, we got this basic kind of auto tiler level constructor thing. It's really bare bones at the moment. Oh, we gotta seal this up. Thank you so much. Could you also do a triple door? You would not believe the number of requests I've had for a triple door. Yeah, we're eventually going to support a triple door. My system currently can't because of the way it does the evaluations. But eventually we will support a triple door. I think we're going to stop there. There have been subversive demands from some elements for a quad door, but we don't talk about the quad door. And in fact, anyone seen to be discussing the quad door shall be punished appropriately. Oh my God, what did I just do? I identified some kind of weird issue. But yeah, this is kind of the basic little tool. This is kind of like a simulation game. So we ended up doing all of that stuff just in Godot and GDScript and everything. And then we've ended up manufacturing here this whole like entity component system. So we have this fully functional entity component system that has queries and components and even buffers, like big data buffers. Quickly grabbing some foodies. Yeah, no foodsies, no worries. But you made the art for triple doors right. Yeah, I do have that. I can tease you with that. Door triple regular out. Okay. I think I'll be able to find this. Get that triple door. Not there. Hull stack. Sprite. Nope. Where did I put the doors? Oh, they're not environmental, they're objects, right? Oh, we got ads in a minute. Let's see if we can get through this before. Here we go. Any component system sounds fancy. Yeah, it's probably overkill. Here's the incredible triple door. Yeah, I want to get it in there, but we need to change a couple of things to get that working. But yeah, soon. Once we can recreate this editor tool in the ECS, we can easily support stuff like that. We also have a bunch of hull types that I want to be able to add. A bunch of like angled hull types, but we need to add some additional information for those as well so that I can support these. That'll be fancy. We also need a zoom system so that I can switch between the miniature, the half scale versions, and the full scale versions of everything. Half scale, or is that quarter scale? That's half scale, okay. Does Godot work with the newest .NET? I've got Godot working with .NET 8. I don't know if that's exactly the newest one, but I think that's the latest that's supported. Latest .NET version. It's 9. Okay, I don't know if it supports 9, but it definitely supports 8. 9 is, but 8 is fine. Yeah, 8 is great. As someone who used to be messing around with Unity, it's so much better than like the old versions of .NET that like Unity's like mono supported. There's so many fancy features. We only just started using C# for our entity component system here. If you got stuck in the ads, I'm sorry. All right, but we're kind of working on the input for our editor tools because we need to rebuild that editor tool I showed off. We need to rebuild that in C#. All right, so we need to add a run function to the tool system, which we just created. Tool system.run, and then here it says, oh, it can be made static. Yeah, right. I mean, maybe. So block eraser mode does not exist here. Active block tool does not exist here. So these actually are going to exist on the tool system. So the edit system is becoming more of a thing to just route commands. I know this is kind of inefficient where we like process a command, queue it up for another system, and then that system processes the command and then queues it up for another system. But like, I think this is like going to be more robust in the long run. The tool system probably wants to know about these things though. Paul, hey, this is very cool. You know, you're just jumping in here, but you're building all the tools first, or is your game playable at all? All the tools first. We've had some older prototype builds. So like I had an older prototype build where like I had crew members running around a ship and stuff like that. Like we've implemented prototypes of varying levels of functionality, but we end up tearing them down and like rebuilding them in a new system. So we've gone through that cycle a few times over the last year. So at the moment, we just have the build tools. We just have the auto tiler and stuff like that. Some of which we need to recreate in C#. So we are reinventing the wheel a few times. But, you know, we're chilling. We're not in a hurry. We're kind of just doing our thing here. Okay, so here, what we're going to say is basically do this. While game input.tool commands .count is greater than 0. I think this is a little silly, the way that we have this set up. Somehow I deleted a bracket. Command. Oh, you're not in the right names. You are in the... Where is the command? Command is not in the ECI. Oh, it's in namespace di.io. Okay, that's fine. Using di.io. Gotcha, thank you. As an FTL lover, you're excited to see what comes of this. That is very exciting as well for me. We'll see. We're still early days. I think we have a pretty strong like art direction as far as this kind of isometric 3D thing we got going. But yeah, I'm excited to see it come together as well. I'm excited to move through the different phases of development. Like we've been in tools, we were in prototyping phase for a long time. Now we're kind of in the tools phase because we have like a pretty strong idea of what we're going to need from a tool standpoint. And then, yeah, then we'll be hitting the content and the gameplay systems phase for a long time, and then we're going to be hitting like the narrative phase. Like I'm very excited to move between these different phases, and I try to do that pretty discreetly because as like a solo dev, it's kind of hard to context switch. So like if it was more than just me, we could be pursuing multiple avenues at the same time. But it's just me, so I tend to try to like really lock something down and then move on to the next thing. And like the consequences of that is like I haven't really worked on art very much in a while because I've been busy programming the entity component system and stuff like that. You hate ads, so you had ads, so I don't know what you said, but .NET 8 is very solid. Yeah, I said .NET 8 is great, and I said my last experience with .NET was like Unity is like mono implementation or whatever Unity was using like years ago. So I haven't really done a lot of C# since then. So when I came back and I decided to implement my ECS and my games, I basically decided to implement the game sim in C#. I'm like blown away by all the new features. It's like incredible. All the stuff you can do with modern C#. We're using spans and memories a lot. Span and memory, which I know aren't new, but they just feel so new and good. There's a lot of cool stuff. It has so old C# version, it's really sad. Yeah, exactly. So stuff that's like pretty ancient to C#, it still feels new to me. Super rad. The art reminds you of the original Space Quest. Oh, I'm not familiar. Check this out. Let's see what Space Quest game. It's a series of games. Oh, cool. It's pretty fun. Whoa. Yeah, we're definitely low res. Oh, nice. Yeah, we're definitely going for that like kind of more 60s, late 60s aesthetic. Oh, very cool. We're definitely going for like old school Star Trek aesthetic. Somewhere kind of between TNG and TOS. Like I like kind of the more vibrant popping colors of like TOS. You've returned with them foodsies. Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have lunch after this as well. I got a big old salad in the fridge I made last night. Kaiwok knots. Kaiwo knots. Kaiwo knots. I think that's how I pronounce your name. On your project, which is not game dev directly, you use .NET 8 as well, and the performance gain and entity framework link and iteration collections is insane. Spans aren't new, but .NET really changed a ton of stuff internally with spans to make so much stuff more performant, and that on an insane level. Yeah, it's really great. Like obviously with an ECS, we don't know what types we're operating on all the time, so we can store our chunks. We're just storing our chunks just straight in memory, like in byte form, and we just recast it if we need to use it when we operate on it. Like it's kind of cool. So you can just have a whole bunch of chunk arrays and you don't know what type they are and it doesn't matter. Symbol, what up, son? Input, output. How are you doing? Did you do, oh, you helped run Solo Dev 6. How was that? I feel like that ended like yesterday or maybe Friday or was it Monday? I think it ended Monday. Time zones are confusing. Kaiwanauts, yeah. But then you get back to your daily job and have to use .NET Framework 4 without data crap. Yeah, makes you appreciate it way more. Ended Monday, was good. Had a few weird submissions, but you took care of it. Yeah, I got to check some of those submissions out. That's very exciting. It's incredible to me that Solo Dev is able to do these like monthly jams now. I think that's great. It's definitely like thanks to like you and like other people in the community who are like organizing them. Bi-monthly, right. It's going to be every other month. That's right. Time flies so fast that to me they feel monthly. Like one of them ends and then I swear like the next month there's another one. MPC does everything. That sounds about right. I don't know how practical does everything practical does. All right. So what we've decided is we have this kind of weird chain where we start. So for our input, we start with our input handler on the Godot side, which is going to take input directly from the player, from the action map, the input map. It's going to take input from the node 2Ds that are mouse pickable. It's going to take input from the UI. Basically, anything that gets clicked on can just pass its message up to, or like signal up to the input handler in some way. I mean, it'll just call the input handler. We don't really need a signal. And the input handler is going to save these arrays of strings. Just so we have a really generic input system on the Godot side, and it will enqueue them in the basic in the game node, which is like our root node. And then all game is going to do is it's going to interpret the first set of arguments. And it's going to enqueue those up in the umbrella systems that would handle them, or the umbrella queues, or what I don't want you call it. Know what you want to call it. So like edit commands will get enqueued up in the input, in our input singleton or whatever. Then the edit system will run. It will look at all of its edit commands. It will check the next level, the next step in terms of the context for the commands. So if it's like tool or save or load or undo or redo, it'll queue those up in a more specific queue. So like tool commands will get queued up. The tool system will run after the edit system, and it will process that stuff. I got to decide what to do for things like save and load, because we'll probably just have a save system that handles save or load calls. Same thing with like undo, redo. We'll probably just have an undo, redo system. I'll probably call them save load system or undo, redo system, just to make it more clear what's happening. Yeah, definitely no, Joel. Get into some game jams. They're great. They really help me. Like I've only been using Godot for the last like a little over a year, and the 2 game jams I did this year really helped me get comfortable in Godot. I did one 2D game and one 3D game, and they really helped me out. I learned a lot faster than I would have otherwise. I feel like we're setting up an input system that's like a series of pneumatic tubes that just go somewhere, and then someone takes it out of one tube and shoves it in another tube, and then eventually someone does something with it and consumes the command. But I feel like 90% of what we're doing here is just pulling them out of one tube and then shoving them up into the next tube, and they're just going all over the place, which is fine. Input is one of those systems that like is not intense. It's not performance intensive. Happens in bursts. Kaiwanot says, sing Singleton there. Oh, thank you, Partywave, for the follow. Really appreciate that. We stream 5 days a week around this time. We usually wrap up around this time, but I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out with all my raiders here. Really appreciate y'all coming in. So we'll go a little longer here. You're seeing Singleton there. Do you know if you can use MSDI in Godot or even with source gen? I do not know. I do not know. I honestly don't know what DI stands for. To me, DI stands for Digital Iliad. Partywave subscribe with Prime. Oh my god. Thank you so much. Thank you for beaming up to the starship here, joining our crew. I really appreciate that. Dependency injection. Oh yeah, I mean probably. I haven't had to do dependency injection since like the early versions of like Unity's .ecs. So I don't know. You're way more familiar with this stuff than I am. I only just started using Godot C# about 6 to 8 weeks ago when I decided to make my entity component system, or when I decided to implement my simulation as a separate thing, as like separate from the scene tree in Godot. Doing an ECS in C# I would not recommend. It is not the best language for it. No, Jewel, you were hoping you wouldn't suggest the raid at the end of your stream. If you want to suggest the raid, there's a channel points reward to become the raid master, where you actually do decide where we raid at the end of a stream. Literally, no one has used it. I'm pretty sure it's enabled. Oh, the raid to you, the raid to me earlier. Oh, okay. Oh, did you come in with the raiders? Oh, you did. Okay, you hang out here normally, so I didn't realize you came in with the raiders. That's great. Drusip, thank you for the hydrate. Oh, Party Wave, you're Paul. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We have a Discord you can lurk in. We don't put a lot of game updates in there yet. We usually actually use that more to just have community members share the progress on their own projects, or like ask for help, or just kind of, hang out. But eventually that'll be like the main spot to get like game updates once we're sharing everything more publicly. You just need 1.4K till you can become the raid master. You'll get there. Kaiwanot's all good. Just asking some stuff. Since you plan to do a game jam in Godot, and since C# works there, I want to try it. I would be a little concerned about doing a game jam in C# because there are some issues with the building it to different platforms. Like, I think the mobile builds are fixed now, but in C# in Godot 4, I don't think the web build works in C#. That might be old information. I'm not sure if the web export works correctly. Okay, so they did fix the mobile build stuff this year. I don't know if they fixed the web build, and that's kind of like a non-starter for a game jam, right? Like if you can't do a web build for a game jam, you might as well like not do the game jam. So I don't know if I would do C# for a game jam in Godot. Smooth into second, redeemed Raid Master. All right. I think that should lock everyone else out from it. All right, smooth into second is our Raid Master. Oh, and is deferring to no jewel. I can try it out, and if it doesn't work, you'll not do it. Oh, okay. Yeah, let me try that out for you. Well, thank you for the redeem. Smooth in a second. We're not quite ready to raid out, but I think we're going to be doing it real soon. Well, the Raid Master thing is just a status. It's redeemable once per stream, so once someone takes it, it's theirs. It's just their job to like hang around till the end of the stream to be able to redeem it. If they don't, I'll just reject it, and I'm pretty sure you get the points back if a redeem gets rejected. So, yeah, just hang around. No jewel, and we'll be picking the raid buttons. Yeah, impeccable logic. All right, so I feel happy with this kind of janky, kind of inefficient command pattern we're using here. This, I think it's a little weird and a little roundabout, but I'm kind of okay with it. So here we'd have a switch, and then so what are the current tool selections we support? Kaiwanauts, even doing a game with GDScript to get it in the Godot engine or the tools. You mean it's good for me to do? Yeah, I love GDScript. That's all I used for most of the first year. Actually, for the entire first year that I was using Godot, and it's what I used for my jams. I think GDScript is great. I think it's easy. It's pretty easy to understand. You get pretty comfortable with it pretty quickly. There's a few things I don't love the most about it. Like the dynamic typing is like kind of a mixed bag. There isn't like function overloading, so you can't have like functions that are named the same with like different parameters and stuff. There's some like weird little nitpicky issues, but I think it's great. And honestly, for if all you're doing is interacting with the Godot API, GDScript is better. C# is better if you're interacting with like external libraries, probably, or like, you know, libraries and doing a lot of simulation stuff, and you need more speed. The C# side is better, I think. Party Wave, what's my plan for game sound? That's a great question. I'm not sure about the sound effects. I need to get into that because I do know how to make music. I have musical skills. They aren't really the appropriate skills for like a sci-fi game. Like I can play like, you know, mandolin, guitar, stuff like that. I can play stringed instruments. So we could go a couple different ways. We'll probably have some Star Trek TNG like classical instrument stuff happening. But it'll probably be a lot of like sci-fi stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I've got a couple of DAWs that I'm interested in trying out, and I got a little MIDI keyboard that I borrowed from someone. I just haven't had time to really mess around with the audio, but I'm excited to create some abstract soundscapes. I'm basically doing everything for the game. I'm doing the art, doing the programming, doing the design, doing the writing. This is like a solo dev project. Why did I do that? There we go. So what was I doing here? I was going to look at our list of possible tool inputs. So the tool inputs that we have are eraser, select, deck bulk, door. So we can do this. So we can say tool switch command dot next step case eraser case select. So here for eraser we would say block eraser mode equals not block eraser mode. So we just flip that. Whatever, whether we're in the eraser mode or not, we just flip whatever. We just toggle modes. Otherwise, if it's select, we basically say active block tool equals enum dot parse block dot forms. Is that right? Is it just block? I don't think it's block. No, it's not. Block dot forms. Command dot next step. Space banjo is a thing. I can make it work. I have a banjo in the closet. I've never used it, but yeah, I don't think that's the vibe we're going for, but it is a thing. No, Jewel. Sound effects are easy with 11 labs. You don't know about the moral implications on using AI for this. Yeah, we're not going to do that. I know it's easy, but like I'm happy. It's so easy, quote unquote easy. It's so straightforward to creating ambient soundscapes that I would rather just do it. But if released for prototyping and free games and game jams, yeah. If it's free, I don't know about game jams. It's like game jams usually have their own rules around AI content, but for ideation, I don't think it's a bad idea. If you're trying to get ideas, it's fine to just run an AI and just get some ideas. But like, yeah, I would never use AI produced content in the final result of anything, just for a number of reasons, whether it's copyright uncertainty, ethical implications, and also just kind of like consistency and like quality. But yeah, as a starting point, I don't think it's that bad. Enum.parse tenum. Enum is forms. So wait, why doesn't that work? Oh, it's a block. Oh, it can't just be a block tool. It's got to be okay. I guess it's what we're going to do is we're going to have like a private void change block tool, or maybe swap block tool, set block tool, block. We need a different process for this, but it's basically going to be this, where we read the next step, and the problem is we need a little more information. We need a little more information than just block, deck, whatever. We need a palette. We need to make a block palette is what we need to do. That's what we need to do next, is we need to make an interface that has a block palette that we can select blocks from, like in the scene here. We need a UI that lets us pick different blocks, because the problem is you can't just be like, I want a floor. You have to be like, okay, great, you want a floor. Which floor? These are all of our different floors. So you got to pick one. So we need to be able to provide more information than this, for sure. Okay, that's probably what we're going to tackle tomorrow. We'll go into a whole different direction and do some editor UI stuff. Make like a block palette where we can select what kind of block type we want to draw. I think that's gonna be fun. But yeah, we'll probably do that tomorrow. Wow, there's so many people in here. This is pretty awesome. All right, No Jewel, you've been selected as the deputy raid master. Pick a good one. Pick a good one, because we got a big raiding party. Cetolix? Okay, Ceto's a good choice. All right. Well, this has been awesome. I'm gonna get our outro music going here. Do something hype. Get our chip tunes going here. All right, this has been awesome. I appreciate all the raiders today. Sorcery Story gave us the raid really early on. Our regular human. Human. Oh, what's the quote? And now for some human music. All right. Cetolix is the raid target. This channel is intended for mature audiences. If you have any children or immature viewers around, you know, maybe now's the time to back off. I get Ceto up on my stream here, so I'm ready. I appreciate everyone hanging out. This has been an awesome day for streams. We've made some great progress. Very happy. Excited to get back to tomorrow. Is Ceto still streaming? Yeah, Ceto is there. All right, I got them up on my screen here. Thank you so much for the follow. It's been great talking to you today. Happy to keep talking to you about game dev or game devage, C#age. It's always great. I appreciate everyone on the YouTube side hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna be back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. We're just getting started for this week. You're pretty immature, but you still approve. Well, you know, parental guidance suggested. So do with that what you will. Thank you so much for watching. We're about to hit the raid. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.